You guys ever look at something you have to do and you know you have to do, you know you have to get on it, and you just sit there and you look at it and think, my God, this is just going to suck. It's going to be a pain in the ass, be no fun. That's where I'm at right now tonight. You know, stuff like this, cleaning up after myself, working like a gentleman, it's never been my strong suit. Probably never will be. But, yeah. Time to move this stuff out of the way. We got to move this bench. I mentioned it in a video, a couple of videos back. Tried to get a little better setup here in the forge. I scored a huge I-beam, and I've been looking for one for quite a while to build a forge press. And I finally got a hold of one, which is going to be awesome. Because that's a big deal item here that will help us doing the things we want to do for making the tools. I'm kind of going backwards a little bit. A lot of people who do this kind of thing, they just start out. They'll start out just forging everything by hand, working with what they have, you know what I mean, kind of muddling through. And I've kind of tackled it a little bit opposite. My plan has kind of been since day one, since I've been planning this, was to kind of get the shop set up the way I need to before we start putting stuff out. Because once I get rolling on putting stuff out, I want to be able to crank it out. I don't want to be behind months and months on stuff people are going to be waiting for, things like that. You know, it's just one of those deals where if I'm going to do it, I've always had that thought process that I want to do it, I want to be set up. You know, I hit a piece of metal there. So that's what we're after right now. I'm not looking to, we're not going to set the world on fire at first cranking stuff out. Who the hell is this? It's Nathan. Gotta answer Nathan. Hello. I love changing things up in the shop. I tell you what, I've never been one of those people that if something's not working for me and my work's set up, I've never been one of those guys instead of, a lot of people sit there and live with it. And I've just never been that kind of person. If something's not exactly working the way I want it to, you can't be afraid to go and change it. I can't tell you how many times over the years I've built this, built that, a month later, tear it apart because I had an idea. It seemed like a great idea at the time, and it just didn't work out the way I wanted it. And I learned a long time ago that I'd rather just redo something than live with it. Now, this was a decent setup over here, but what I ran into is not enough room around the actual forge itself to put the things that I'm going to need to put there. Because when you're talking about dealing with your presses, stuff like that, your vices and whatnot, you need to be able to get out of the fire and get to the stuff, get to the press or whatever real fast. Otherwise, I noticed with like the forge welding, toying around with that, the slower I was to get to that anvil from the fire, the harder it was to get a weld, because I found that it has to be a very fast process. So that's kind of what we're working on. I want to be able to, when I get the forge press built, I need to be able to reach that thing, turn around, grab something out of the forge, get it right on the press without having to walk it across the room or anything like that, because by the time you walk it across the room, metal may be cooled down too much to do what you need to do with it. So that's what we're doing. I'm just trying to get this stuff revamped a little bit. I do so much grinding and stuff in here, I worry terribly about the sparks. But metal does quite a bit to keep that worry away. Well, I tell you what, folks, for everybody who thinks I don't get anything done, yeah, you're right, I never get anything 100% done. But we're actually getting to all these little projects that I've been threatening to do since we started building this shop. I mean, just all kinds of little goofy projects. I'm just, like I said, this is driving me nuts sitting here looking at this thing unused. So anyway, we've got this end closed out. We have this end fairly cleaned out. We have some stuff on the anvil side to take care of, but I'm ready to get back into business here. I'm going to be, this week I'm on call, so the videos are going to be slow, and I have some long work days this week that we have to contend with to get a kind of a good sized job done for the first half of the week. But while I'm doing that, I'm going to be continuing forging tools. I've got some more 1080 blanks cut, or some billets that are destined to become draw knives. So we're going to try to get the, I want to get a batch of 10 done. Get a batch of 10 forged out, ground out, heat treated, all that good stuff. Get that done, get them out there, get them listed for sale, see how they sell, move on to the next thing. Tracking down some tool steel for things like adzes, hewing hatchets, hewing axes, things like that. Also we're going to be doing a, see what I can come up with to make some firmer chisels for timber framing. The big chisels you guys saw me use during the build. Also some slicks, things like that. But it's going to be a progression. Certain things, the draw knives, I mean, we have one forged out here. The draw knives are pretty simple to forge out. It's just shaping the, so as my skills progress, the amount of tools that I can make things like that should hopefully also progress. So what's going to happen, what I have to be careful of if we're going into this business model of making tools is that, for one, I have to make sure I can keep up with demand. Now, that's not to say there will be any demand. We will see. I know initially just these draw knives, I have a lot of you folks that want them. So I know I'm going to be busy for a while just trying to crank these out. But beyond that, I need to make sure I'm set up smoothly enough that as my kids get older, if they want to come out and help and make a little extra with me, I need to have enough room so more than one person can work in here. I'm so used to working alone on just about everything that I don't always think of, okay, what if somebody else comes to help me out? Will I be prepared for that? And I'm kind of hoping we're able to do that. Now I know as of right now, when that bench was over here and the kids are out here forging while I'm grinding or whatever, we're tripping over each other because we're all crammed down on this end. Well, now we can kind of spread that out a little bit, so that'll be nice. Of course, like I said, now I have to go through and clean the bench off, but at least it's just clutter and not pure mess, which is always nice. I was thinking about making individual stands for the tools that I had on the bench, and I changed my mind because I use a workbench for so much that more than just storage, believe it or not. I use a workbench for so much, sometimes I just need that space to be able to tear something down, lay the parts out, and work on it. But yeah, that's that. So I have metal for the wall behind us. We're going to go up to that second girt with metal, and we're going to have to cap it off with metal so sparks can't fly up and behind and get caught in between the girts and the sheet metal. I did put a I had to put a heat shield behind the sawdust burner. I've had that thing going all day. It's really cold out today, but it's really nice in here. But I noticed the lumber behind that girt, right where that piece of metal is, that was getting up to about 118, 119 degrees. I checked it with a temperature probe. Just a little bit too warm for comfort for me anyway. Granted, it's probably not going to catch on fire at that temperatures, but over time, that's going to break down and it will be easier and easier and easier to ignite that. So what I did with that heat shield, that's not just screwed, that's just not screwed tight to the wall. I actually made copper spacers about 2 inches, so it's actually, so it's a proper heat shield. There's air space behind it. The none of the steel or the sheet metal on these walls, none of this is really a heat shield. It's not, I'm not gonna be able to put something up hot against it and not expect the wood underneath it to catch on fire. It's right tight to it. What this is for things that are gonna bounce off of it. When I was forge welding, the slag, the flux just grenaded all over the place every time you hit it. The first couple hits out of the forge, be real easy for that stuff to stick to the wall and ignite something. With the metal, it'll bounce off the metal. Grinding sparks, that's the biggest reason that's there, is for the grinders. Because when I'm grinding stuff, cutting metal and whatnot, because the like the high carbon steel, I can't really cut with that circular saw. So when I'm cutting that stuff, grinder sparks are just going all over the place. That was one reason I wanted to move that bench, because most of the stuff I cut is down on this end, and a lot of the sparks were going underneath of that bench, and me being the pack rat hoarder that I am, there's always stuff under there that could harbor another spot to light on fire. Now we do have an extinguisher in here, but my concern is what happens an hour after you go in the house. You know, usually when I'm doing hot work in here, I usually shut everything down, spend a couple hours out here just kind of watching everything, making sure nothing's going to go up. And I'll come back out after I'm done editing a video, sometimes 2, 3 in the morning, just to check on this, make sure nothing's going to burn up. Now we have a lot more metal to go that we have to put on these walls. There's still plenty of that left to do, but my main concern areas are starting to get covered up. And that's the big thing. Now people have asked me how I'm sealing that up on the bottom where the metal meets the floor, because sparks can get under that. It is a chintzy, half-ass, lazy man's way, but all I do is all the grinder dust that's all over the floor, I just sweep it right against the wall until I get a little bit, not a very big layer, but enough to where things can't get underneath the sheet metal. Then I don't have to worry about sealants and stuff when they fail where the concrete meets the metal, because sooner or later that is what will happen. And my damn phone's ringing. Hello?